Michelle Rempel Garner is one of the few Conservative Party MPs who has any sort of profile. Pierre Poilievre, maybe Michael Chong. Some people still remember Andrew Scheer. And I think I'm almost on the list, aren't I? Though I think it's fair to say Michelle Rempel Garner is famous for being famous. I mean, it's been the biggest year for health in Canadian history, and Rempel Garner is the health critic. Can you tell me anything of use, of importance she's said or done, any real point she's made, any important campaign or challenge to the Liberals and their lockdowns in the past year? Yeah, no, me neither. Maybe she hasn't been allowed to by Erin O'Toole, but that hasn't stopped Pierre Poilievre from actually making a dent in the Liberals, despite O'Toole actually demoting him. Rempel Garner has always been culturally leftist. She makes a point of her feminism and her transgender activism. I'm not sure if it really represents the Conservative Party or Calgary, but it keeps her in the good books of the media party out there in Ottawa. She's one of the few Conservatives the CBC tolerates. I'm not sure if she's a cultural fit for her new home down in Oklahoma, where her new husband is from and where she spends so much of her time. She just moved to Oklahoma for most of the first part of the pandemic. I mean, I get it. Canada has been a prison by comparison. I think a lot of people would like to move to Oklahoma if they could, but it's a bit weird being a Canadian member of parliament when you're based in Oklahoma, don't you think? I mean, can you imagine the reverse? Imagine if a U.S. congressman lived in Winnipeg while still voting in Congress by Zoom or whatever. In fact, she recently complained that she had to stay in Canada because all of a sudden politicians were getting so much scrutiny.
So I'm going to be totally upfront with you guys. I spent Christmas alone in Calgary. It was a really hard decision to make. I didn't get to see my family at Christmas. I miss my husband. He's in Oklahoma. But I knew if I went down to Oklahoma, I knew that I would have vulturous CBC reporters reporting on my whereabouts, saying that I was a bad example to the Canadian public. And I knew I couldn't go. I knew that because I knew that if the Alberta government and my constituents were being asked to sit at home, then I had to sit at home. Because as somebody who is elected to serve the people, and I'm going to be straight up with you. I have permission to share this. My mother-in-law has stage 4 breast cancer. I would really like to see her. I haven't seen her in months. We don't know how much time she has left. And I've been thinking like, okay, well, when can I potentially go down and see my family? Could it be during the parliamentary recess? And I was thinking about this, I was going to be upfront with people about when I traveled, but I knew when this news came out yesterday that that took any hope for me off the table. So I'll just be selfish and say thanks, Rod. I don't get to see my mother-in-law now because there'll be a witch hunt if I go see my family, even though I'm going to see my mother-in-law and I'm not going to St. Bart's. So yes, a little angry about that.
Yeah, it's really tough being an MP. You know they gave themselves a raise on April 1st, right? And you know they gave themselves another raise last April 1st, right? Boy, they have a tough life. But then I saw this on Twitter just yesterday. I humble myself and ask forgiveness and seek to make things right. I have privilege. I am cis, straight, white, but I'm also a woman who works in a system dominated by white maleness. But no excuses. I will do what I can. That is all I can do, but it is much. What? Whoa. Holy moly, I feel like I just took a wrong turn and ended up in a gender studies class at some left-wing university where they're having a meeting to talk about knocking down some John A. Macdonald statue, but first they have to get their pronouns right, sort of like this.
Guess what? My patience has run out. Pansexuality is not inherently biphobic. They are both valid sexualities, both of them. And while yes, I have seen pansexual people use that label for questionable reasons, they pretty quickly get it once you explain things to them. They do. And not only that, but do you know who likes to use specific or micro labels? Neurodivergent people. Sometimes we just have to do whatever we can to feel safe and comfortable. And using a more specific label can be our outlet for that.
Yeah, maybe we have our new Conservative Party candidate right there. But back to the Rempel Garner tweet. She was writing in reply to Amira El-Gawabi, an activist with the liberal-funded hate group, ironically called the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. As we showed you the other day, they literally have a six-figure contract to smear conservative critics of the Liberal Party. The government pays them to report conservatives to whatever authority they think could do them damage. They're like the Stasi. They're clever to call themselves the Anti-Hate Network because it obscures the fact that they're pretty full of hatred. I mean, they literally go on Twitter and like messages that call for violence against their opponents. So Rempel Garner was bantering with El-Gawabi about the murder in London, Ontario, a 20-year-old man charged with running down the Afzal family in his car. Terrible tragedy. I see in the newspapers today he had significant mental issues, was seeing a shrink, was estranged from his parents, was actually an emancipated youth, as they say, when he was just a teenager. He had flashes of violence going back years in school. I don't know if he was motivated by anti-Muslim hate, or if he was a terrorist, or just mental illness, or even if it was just negligence. I don't know yet. I don't know if anyone knows yet. But Rempel Garner took to Twitter to say that she would like to apologize and ask forgiveness. Let me quote. "Yes, I humble myself and ask forgiveness and seek to make things right." Now, I'm not sure the words humble and MP go together, but sorry, ask for forgiveness. What did Rempel Garner do wrong? She wasn't involved in the killing, so how can she apologize? Well, she's not apologizing for what Veltman, the accused killer, did. She's apologizing for just being who she is. "I have privilege. I am cis, straight, white, but I'm also a woman who works in a system dominated by white maleness." What? So you're apologizing for being cis. You know what that word, that made-up word, fake word means? It means heterosexual, but no normal person says that. She's apologizing for being a straight white woman. Why are you apologizing for immutable characteristics? She's trying to say, though, that even though she's those terrible things, straight white woman, she shouldn't be thrown out with the John A. MacDonald statue because, you see, she works in a system dominated by white maleness. Really? You know, the last Chief Justice of the Supreme Court for the longest time was a woman, right? You know, we've had several governors general who were women, right? I think we've had 3. Women have held high heights in every field of endeavor, politics, business, law, whatever, but sure, you're a poor victim because you're a woman. Okay, all right. But you're also an oppressor because you're white and straight. I'm exhausted just reading this. But no excuses. I will do what I can. That is all I can do, but it is much. Yeah, sure you can do a lot. But what on earth? She's got no excuses for what? Because she's white and heterosexual? She asks for forgiveness for that? Is she trying to ask for forgiveness for someone else's crime? That's not her place to do. What is she doing? That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.